Mr. Steinman, how does climate change affect Africa in general? Economically.
Elsaby, there's no such question.
Okay.
Yeah, remember the whole world is telling us we thinking this is nonsense.
Yeah.
You know? No. Let's face reality. The third world is affected unequally by the impact of climate change, and only that part that we can see so far, only the visible part. Yeah? So whether it's South America, whether it's Africa, whether it's the undeveloped parts of Asia, we are suffering the impact from climate change. The second important thing is that we cannot predict when it will happen.
Yes.
This is extraordinary, unforeseen natural events, but they are happening. And the rate at which they are happening is increasing. That we also see. You know, whether it's drought, whether it's flood, whether it is excessive heat, doesn't matter what it is. Plastic accumulation in the ocean, the depletion of our fishing stocks, all of these are related to climate change. The thing is, it has just as much as a natural or a scientific link or angle, it also has a political link. And this you see very clearly if you look what's been happening in the first world in the last 6 months, with the United States withdrawing or actually actively opposing the Paris Accord. The sad part is that those areas in the world, or those countries in the world that are responsible for 80% of the impact that we see in the climate, or the changes in the climate, they have basically given us the boot. And this is a strong statement to make, but this is my takeaway from what I see is happening. And I think the sentiment that is expressed, or the sentiment that I experience, is one of Africa is on its own. And that is why resilience has become more important than climate change funding. We do not have the resources to invest in anything that will make a significant change to climate change, because we are not the cause of the climate change. We are, you know that expression, we getting the short stick. The climate change happens in the developed part of Asia, in Europe, and in the United States. There where the industrial world is, that is where the biggest impact on the climate comes from. We suffer the consequences. And we must not expect that any other sovereign is going to bail us out. They're not.
Yeah.
So the focus must shift to resilience, because that is what we can do something about, and that is what we have to do something about, because we have to live with the consequences of climate change every season. So I also think that it's more affordable for us to shift our focus to resilience, and it's also a longer term solution. You know, let's get back to our bridge. It's a bit of a Rondom Tali example that I'm using, but it's a good practical thing, because we all know that the bridge collapsed because of the flood water. You know, so are we going to start rebuilding all the bridges in Namibia proactively? Are we preempting what's going to happen? Are we going to only wait until after they've collapsed? Because we're going to have more collapsed bridges in a wet year again, you know. Or are we going to change our entire design philosophy so that we now build roads, when I'm talking about new roads and new bridges, so that they are climate resilient? And that's not there's no easy answer. Because the moment you start talking about resilience, there's an increase in cost. It's not a normal thing. But at least it makes us aware that everything that we do, and everything that we do from a developed development perspective, we must do with the impact of climate change always in the back of our mind. And if this sounds too vague, then let's take a building, new buildings that we put up, they have to be designed to deal with flooding.
Yep.
Not entirely new concept for us. I mean, again, practical example, Bank of Namibia sits on an aquifer. And if they don't pump their parking lots all the time, they quickly flood,
Yes.
It's right next to there, above the municipality, where the old hot spring used to be.
Yeah.
So it's not as if we are totally ignorant about bringing unforeseen natural events into our design philosophy. It's something that we are already versed in to some extent, but it's also something that we didn't do as a matter of principle on every project. But that view of us will have to change. And we will realize that we are on our own. We have to adopt a more climate resilient lifestyle, and that includes our infrastructure, but also the way that we exist, And we have to realize that it's not going to go away. The effects are going to increase, and it will become more pronounced over the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Well, as much as it is also outlined in, one of our SDGs, the question still remains: how ready is Namibia when it comes to climate change? And we will leave you with that question. And unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Steinman, for coming to share your insight on climate change and the impact it has economically on our country, but also globally. So thank you to our listeners. And of course, when you want to listen to us, again, you can go to economist.com.na and listen to all the talks that we've had and continue to listen to it. We say goodbye.